Hey there, podcast listeners, and welcome to the very first episode of Do It Scared. I'm one of your hosts, Brittany, and I'm excited to kick off this incredible journey with you. In this first episode, we're going to get to know Matt and hear just a little bit about his incredible life story and understand, most importantly, the driving force behind this podcast, the Due South Design Center. But more than that, we're going to explore the concept of courage, the kind of courage that lets you do it, even when you're scared. So whether you're tuning in to support, for inspiration, insight, or just good old-fashioned storytelling, you're in the right place. So get ready to be moved, to be inspired, and of course, to do it scared. Without further ado, let's get this journey started. All right, Matt, are you ready for your first podcast?
I am. Actually, I'm a little bit nervous. I'm really struggling with the idea that anyone would want to hear what I have to say, to be honest with you.
I know, but just knowing you and your story, I think you will touch a lot of people. So it's definitely worth it. So tell us a little bit about, who you are right now. Like, what is Due South Design? And tell us a little bit about what the current state is of your life.
Okay, so my name is Matt Jones. I am a Nashville native. I have a what I would call very successful design build contracting business where I serve Middle Tennessee and the surrounding counties of Davidson County. It's been going for a couple of years now. So I'd say strongly maybe 2 years that we've been escalating. I lived in Nashville or around this area my entire life. I was born in Nashville Memorial Hospital, and I've basically grew up in this area. Currently live in Lebanon, and I've based my business, Due South Design, from there. So I appreciate your vote of confidence in me. So,
what kind of stuff do you do?
So I am what I would say a fairly creative individual, and I've been able to capitalize on my many creative abilities and box them into a service where I will take any space, interior or exterior, and transform it from, A to Z. So, and what that entails for us currently is, actually, we started out doing, fireplaces, accent walls, and small spatial transformations. And we had one customer who just knew that we were the person for their backyard renovation project. And we ended up doing this huge composite deck, hot tub, screened in porch, fenced in, area. And we added, all the little trimmings to it. And since that, we have, it seems like I've been doing patios and porches and screened in stuff and composite decks ever since.
Yeah, I mean, people definitely love that work. It's absolutely stunning. And, being a Nashville native, you've lived here. It's kind of rare now with so many people moving to Tennessee. Like me, I'm guilty. But, tell us a little about your childhood running around stomping grounds of Nashville.
So I grew up in the eastern part of Nashville in the 80s. And of course, back then it was fairly rural, but we lived in a, I don't know, maybe what you might call a poor neighborhood. And the Hermitage area there, it was, it was in the city, but at the back of it, there was a farm. And basically my entire family were farmers. And I always tell people that I was raised in the hood on a farm and went to a private school. So
what a paradox.
Exactly. So this paradox has, I believe it's just led me down so many roads and added to basically where I am. And I've taken that from being in in the hood or in a poor area and going to a private Christian school and having this what's going on here? I mean, I guess it would be different in certain situations, but for me, I believe it's led to, a rebellious life.
Right.
Right. And, I mean, that's, led me down a lot of roads.
Yeah. I mean, you were telling me about how at a young age you started drinking a lot, doing weed, and that just was a domino effect.
Yeah. And I mean, that's basically what's happened for me is, we have went from, I mean, I could do a deep dive on this, but to nutshell it, I've been from starting smoking weed and delinquency and all the little petty crimes associated with small drug possession, alcohol related crimes. Before I'm 20 years old. By the time I was 21, I had got my first felony. I had my first son when I was 19 years old, which, that's a recipe for, another messed up family dynamic, which I'm not proud of by any means. There's a lot of things that I would like to go back and redo in my life, but, I've had to grow up with the life that I have, just like my sons have had to.
Right.
I had my second son when I was 25 years old and continued to struggle with addictions and I fell right back into this, it's all I've ever known is a toxic, abusive family situation. And in spite of wanting, I literally have made it my mission to have a better family situation. I'm sure people are just doing the best they can with what they have to work with. But from me, that's what I wanted for this entire time is you're only going to do what you know, right? At least that's the way I feel about it.
Yeah, initially, yeah, sure. And I mean, that led you to a avalanche of bad decisions, heading for absolute disaster. You told me that you think you've spent more than half of your life or half of your son's life in prison.
Right. That's right. I would say over half of my lifetimes I've been in prison or gone or just something, whether it's just out there in the streets, just gone, being sorry, in my opinion. This from the felonies, crimes, when you're on drugs, when you're abusing substances, it's going to lead you to violent situations. It's going to lead you to, whatever, from vandalism to damage to property or, harassment charges. And, it's just a terrible cycle that ultimately, ended me in Federal Correction Institute for armed bank robbery.
Yeah.
So, I ultimately, and I would say that this could be directly related to addiction or, but I feel like it's deeper than that. But to rob a bank and end up doing 5.5 years in a federal correctional institution and in a very violent one, first of all, it's going to, after you get good and dried out after a year in there, it's going to, get your brain thinking to where you're actually starting to think, what is important in life, and I've been, down this road where I think this is important or that is important or
like what?
Whatever. Well, I mean, like money for a change,
it's a big driver for most people.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, and it has been my driver. It's not the first time I was incarcerated, but, and you do have time to think about those things. But this time was a little different for me because I'm older, and it matters. I basically got one more good shot to figure this out because nobody's trying to touch me. Nobody's messing with me. Everyone is giving up. So it's me or nothing. So it made me think, what is the driving force in life? From my perspective, after doing a deep dive on the self-help books and looking inside and meditating and praying, I came to the ultimate decision that I think that a life of service to other people and being a blessing to people and leaving a legacy of service, in my opinion, is the best that a person could probably do with the life that they're given and the time that they're given.
Yeah.
It's taught me that time is important, that serving others is the best thing that you can do. Money or fame or even family, in my opinion, can be extremely disappointing.
Oh yeah. I mean, and we'll definitely talk about that in another podcast down the road about, you lived a life of money, you lived a life of family, you lived a life of like trying to achieve all of these things where the only thing that has been paying off for you and for other people in the world too is this idea of service. And that's where, in prison, you came up with this idea of the Due South Design Center, right? Right now we have Due South Design, which is that, that more contractor business where it's day-to-day life that will hopefully someday fund and work with the Due South Design Center along with this podcast, right? So can you tell me, when you were in prison, right, you had this idea of service and you started to design and build something.
I did.
With just a piece of paper. You traded food, you traded all these things that are worth it, just have more paper and pencils. So will you tell me, or tell us and our listeners about that experience of building that out and what the Due South Design Center is?
So as a one-liner, or, in a nutshell, the Due South Design Center is a vocational rehabilitation program designed or available to provide a competitive wage for people to learn a skilled trade, basically for people to get an education and fast track themselves to owning their own business or being a part of the actual program, which perpetuates itself, as a legacy.
Right.
Not bigger than me. It's not me. It's not you. It's not them. It's something that is there,
to serve the community.
Yeah. I see guys in prison, and not only people in prison. I mean, it could be anyone with a hardship, whether it be a veteran or some, any issue, any disability, any hardship in life that will prevent you from getting the proper education that, is going to, give you that a wage to be a contributing member of society. I've seen so many guys say, the streets owe me, or I've only sold dope all my life. That's what I know how to do. I've, got people who depend on me and stuff like that. So to me, it's like a no excuses thing. It's more than that, but it's there because I've seen so many people get out of prison and not have, the means. Life keeps happening. And I thought that prison was hard, but life is pretty tough too. It keeps going no matter what you do.
Yeah.
So, people need that. And I feel like, through my experiences, through even this podcast and my abilities, I can, that's my service. That's to be able to offer that to people. I believe that, people, the community can capitalize on my accumulated experiences in a really positive way.
Yeah, absolutely. Can you, you talked about how, with me a lot, how you've always been terrified. You've even talked about the fear and anxiety making this podcast, right?
Yes.
And that's where the term "Do It Scared" comes from. So can you tell us a little bit about the title of this podcast in general?
Well, I'm telling you right now, I'm scared to death.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's what it is. I would much rather just be building something or making something or creating something or working on something. And to me, this is like the best. We edit our videos, record time lapses and do this stuff with the business, and it's a creative outlet for me. So this is too. So I'm scared to death because I'm not usually talking in these videos. I'm usually like doing what I do best. So
you're behind the camera a lot. You're behind the scenes.
Well, you have been a huge inspiration for me. You have been the boot, in my rear end, so to speak, to like, you need to get this out there. And I'm thankful for your vote of confidence. You stepped into my life, several months ago, and it's been nothing but, I believe in you. I believe in you. And that in turn has been like a big, it's opened my eyes. It's made me believe in the thing that I felt like was slipping through my fingers. So it was like, I wanted to do this from day one, but it's hard. You don't just get out with an idea on a napkin and say, hey, no one's going to run to you and say, oh, I want to, make all your dreams come true. You have to fight for it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like I see guys, especially in prison, they'll have an idea written down on an notebook paper and think that they're going to go to the SBA and get a $25,000 business loan or $100,000 business loan when they get out. And that's not the way it works.
We've learned it's not that easy.
No, what you do is you work your fingers to the bone for a year or two and build it yourself with your own blood, sweat, and tears. And then maybe they'll consider it, but and no one's talking about the SBA here, but the point is that if you believe in it, you need to do it. And if you're scared, then
you're doing it right.
You need to do it exactly.
You're doing it right.
And so if you're doing it scared, you're doing it right. To me, it's like if you're nervous, if it feels like it doesn't feel right, then it's probably the route that you need to take.
Yeah, because you know why? There's a bunch of growth in change, right? When you're encountering something uncomfortable, that's where the growth happens. And so I'm proud of you for really truly diving into who you are and being authentic, because there's nothing more in the world that you can do than just be truly who you are. So I'm excited where this podcast is going to bring us. I can see it helping so many more people. Like, of course, the Due South Design Center is going to help people in the future.
Yes.
But we can start doing it now with the stories, because we're going to be talking about, the federal system and your the complexities of childhood trauma and relationships, and even just maybe like what's going on in the construction industry, like cool technology about, drones and AI. And there's just so much going on in the world where I think people will be interested to hear about the complexities of your life, because your life is truly inspiring, and I would love for people to hear it. So do you have any other last words before we end our first episode here?
I just look forward to the next ones. There's so much that I'm looking forward to unfolding here.
Yeah, and definitely, let us know what you are the most interested in with just this little snippet of his life and his story. There's so many things we could be talking about it, but if there's something that truly piques your interest, like let us know, because we'll cover it sooner rather than later. Other than that, make sure you visit the website. It's going to be in the description, and follow us, share this podcast, and other than that, we'll see you in the next one.